and 20.
What is going on? Welcome back. Episode 37 of the 3rd and 20 podcast. My name is Frank Entwistle. We got the co-host himself, the main man, Ryan Steed. Ryan, how you feeling today?
Feeling good. Feeling dangerous. Ready to get ready to go.
Yeah, so news just dropped before we started recording. Carson Wentz has been traded from the Eagles to the Colts for a 3rd-round pick this year and a 2nd-round pick next year that could turn into a 1st-round pick if he starts 75% of the snaps or 70% of the snaps and they make the playoff. Steed, I'm going to toss this one to you first. Initial winner and loser from this trade.
Well, I think the initial winner is Carson Wentz, because he gets out of Philadelphia and that whole mess up there. And I really like this deal for the Colts because when we were talking about it and we were making up our little mock draft because we knew Carson Wentz would be traded, I feel like the Colts were just like the best fit for him. And where you get a Carson Wentz who struggled last year, but, he didn't have like this great offense, and this terrible offensive line. Now you go to one of the teams with one of the better offensive lines in the league and a lot of good weapons around. They're going to have to draft a receiver around them, but, they keep their 1st-round pick, and, he just gets more of a full team around him, and I think he's able to really get back to where he was 2 years ago. At the end of the day, people are going to crap on Carson Wentz and say how bad his mechanics were last year, and they weren't great. But Carson Wentz, you saw him earlier when he was playing with the Eagles last year, he still was able to make some big-time throws and keep them in ball games. One play that really stuck out to me was the game they were playing the Bengals. It was the Bengals and they were struggling, but he made a couple throws to really push that and tie that game to OT, and honestly should have won that game. So I think the Colts got themselves a gamer and a guy that with the right coaching, and I like their coaching staff, could really turn him around, and just for a 3rd-round pick and possibly a 1st-round pick, but a conditional 2nd next year. You just saw what Jared Goff went for 2 1st-round picks. I think this is just great value for the Colts, and not a bad deal for the Eagles because, it looks like deadlock. They're set on Jalen Hurts, and they pick up an extra pick and a team that's rebuilding, just trying to get talent. So, but I really like this move for the Colts.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Colts are the early winner from this trade. It is a little risky because of what happened with Carson Wentz, but you get him reunited with Frank Reich, like you said, a much better offensive line group. They do need a tackle, but they keep their 1st-round pick, and that 1st round, if they want to tackle, there's going to be a damn good tackle prospect on the board there at 21. Like you said, in our mock, we had reversed it. We had the Colts giving up a 1st this year and a 3rd next year. It turned out to be a 3rd this year and most likely a 1st next year. So I really like this deal a lot more for the Colts than we had drawn up. I'm a little surprised that the Bears didn't try to get in on the market as much for Carson Wentz. Maybe they did and they just didn't like the price tag. They didn't want to give up any 1st. It just seemed like for me, Ryan Pace and Nagy, while we had Carson Wentz getting traded to the Colts, I felt like they would have made a little bit more of a push to get a quarterback, because if Carson Wentz is able to turn it around, you're never going to get a quarterback with that kind of arm talent and what he's shown before for that price. You're really just you don't see that. So if Carson Wentz and Frank Reich are able to turn it around, they're able to get Wentz back to what he was, get his confidence back, put him in a scheme that is more power run, play action, like we had seen in 2017 with the Eagles, and you get a quarterback that is going back into top 10 in the league contention. Eagles just got fleeced, and they're eating $33 million in dead cap, the record for the most amount of dead cap a team has ever eaten before. It is risky that Carson Wentz can bust out. Generally speaking, when you trade for a former 1st round, especially high 1st round pick quarterback, just the track record isn't there. but every player's different. And man, just being able to keep those first two picks, you can pick a tackle, you can pick up a corner or an edge rusher, which you need to replace. You still have a ton of money to sign free agents. Man, the Colts are looking great right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're looking scary. A good bet would be a Super Bowl prop on them. I think they were like plus 2,500 favorites to win the Super Bowl. But yeah, I like what you said about the Bears because like I've been hearing like the Bears were being aggressive in the Carson Wentz stakes, but like for that asking price, quote unquote them being aggressive, like I thought he would go for a lot more honestly, and I don't understand why the Bears didn't really pull more of a trigger, especially a team that's been known to give up first round picks and things like this. But maybe they just didn't think that they didn't want to give up that much for Carson Wentz. But Nagy and them, they're going to have to find a quarterback, and the quarterback market is slimming. Maybe they think they're in with Deshaun somehow. I don't know. But with the quarterback slimming, I think this was probably honestly the best price with the highest ceiling. You get a guy like Carson Wentz for only a third-round pick and next year's first, more than likely, for what he's capable of doing, what we've seen him being able to do, MVP contender, MVP caliber player, a top 10 quarterback, like you said. That is just a great price for the Colts. And it seems like the Colts usually do not miss on stuff like this. So, like, that's why I'm very confident Carson Wentz will just go back to his norm and, we'll see a very competitive Colts team like we did last year and probably more than that.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a Colts team now that is almost acting like the Rams. Maybe they're getting on that train where they say, hey, a lot of these late first round, mid first round picks are a little bit overvalued. This is a second time that we've seen them trade their first-round selection for proven talent, or in their opinion, at least proven talent, and it worked out last year in their trade with the 49ers for Armstead, it was, right?
I thought it was Buckner.
Yeah, Buckner. Yeah, my bad. Not Armstead. It was DeForest Buckner, and Buckner was great for them. So now they keep the one this year in a loaded tackle class. They need a tackle. They were thinking about putting Quentin Nelson at left tackle. Now they keep their first round selection and their second round selection. I'm liking this a lot for the Colts. For the Bears, maybe they're trying to move up in the draft again for a quarterback. I wouldn't be terribly shocked to see them move up. It feels like they have a little bit too many holes though. It just, for me with the Bears, I would have loved for them to take a little bit of a risk to get a quarterback at a cheaper price, because if you want to trade up in this draft for a quarterback, unless you're thinking maybe you land someone like Mac Jones all the way at 20, or maybe you can only trade up a handful of spots and land one of these guys that falls, maybe they're trying to do that, but it really feels like they're a little bit late to the party here trying to get a quarterback, with a lot of these quarterback needy teams already moving to get their guy. Maybe they want to rely on Sam Darnold. I don't really know. If I'm a Bears fan, I was already skeptical. It's just I'm feeling very uneasy right now of what's going on in this market, and who the hell is going to be our guy taking snaps next year? Is it going to be Nick Foles? Like, it's getting real dicey.
Now, if the season started up today, it would be Nick Foles. Like if I was a fan of the Bears, I'd be asking like, what are we doing? We've missed out on already a couple quarterbacks. I mean Stafford's not going in division, but to be one of the favorites to land Wentz and just seeing what Wentz went for, it's like if I'm a fan, I'm thinking, well, how did we miss out on this? Like come on, screw the picks, just go ahead and get Wentz. Like just counter offer that with a little more. But maybe they are putting all their eggs in their basket, hoping Mac Jones will fall back to 20 or trade up maybe in the teens to get someone like a Mac Jones. I just, that's risky because, like, in our mock, we got all the quarterbacks pretty much going by pick 8. And I just had that feeling this draft, and these quarterbacks are very talented. I don't see one falling all the way back to 20 for them, and maybe they are hoping to get a guy like Sam Darnold, that'd be good. But like, let's say those two plans don't work out, they're going to be coming back to this Carson Wentz and really thinking about why didn't we pull the trigger.
Yeah, I'm not giving up on the Bears. Contrary to popular belief, I actually do kind of like their GM Ryan Pace. He screwed up Trubisky, which has been kind of just the big red flag on him. And if he screws up quarterback again this year, he's not going to have a job. But let's go into the next segment that we have, and that's the free agent class. And we can start off with the quarterbacks that our Bears might be looking at, and it's looking pretty bleak. It is looking very bleak. I'll list off the quarterbacks that seem to be going into free agency right now. The first one is Dak Prescott, who is most likely going to be franchise tagged, if not signed to a long-term deal. I doubt he hits the open market without being traded for. So you can almost just scratch him off, in my opinion. Yeah. You can make a similar case for Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, a lot of people think he's the front runner for being the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. They're a team that people are mocking a quarterback to, but that roster, if quarterbacks go, and with all the needs that they have with their cap space, getting a guy like James for cheap might be a decent deal. They have Jameis Hill, but Jameis Winston may be another guy that won't be on the market. Let's get into the guys that will be. Cam Newton, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andy Dalton, Mitchell Trubisky, Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I mean, oh man. After looking at what Cam did this year, they might have to, they're going to have to sign one of those guys if they don't land Darnold or Deshaun, maybe Andy Dalton. Maybe they work something out and try to get a Marcus Mariota from the Raiders or something. If he gets cut, maybe that would be a good fit. But yeah, you got slim pickings.
Yeah, if your team needs a quarterback, this is one of the main reasons why we've seen teams like the Rams trade for Stafford, like the Colts now trade for Wentz, is that they're looking at these quarterbacks hitting free agency like we are, and we see nothing but a bunch of backups. That's just plain and simple. I would rate this quarterback free agency class pretty darn near close to an F. Really slim pickings. No one you can really trust. You can make a clear argument that the best free agent is Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
Bad free agent quarterback class. You're not finding a starting quarterback, it looks like. So with that being said, let's move on to the receivers. Receiver class. On the contrary, it looks all right. As of right now, there's going to be a lot of guys that re-sign, but it's looking like Allen Robinson's going to be a free agent, and there is a clear argument from a lot of people that Allen Robinson is the most underrated receiver in the league, and this is a guy that is a top 10 kind of player that just has been on bad offenses and playing with bad quarterbacks. He's going to be hitting the open market. Chris Godwin is a free agent who a lot, including myself, believe he could be tagged. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Golladay, Will Fuller, Marvin Jones, A.J. Green, T.Y. Hilton, Corey Davis, A.B., Curtis Samuel, Keelan Cole, A.J. Green, and Sammy Watkins. Very, very spicy-looking free agent wide receivers that you can pick up.
Yeah, a lot of good players in this receiver free agent class. I am very interested to see where Allen Robinson does go, because I'm one of those true believers that he is a top 10 receiver in the league. And if he could land somewhere, I don't know, I was thinking maybe a Green Bay would kind of pay for him to go alongside with Devontae Adams. That could be pretty scary just to get a nice little duo. But if I'm Allen Robinson, I want to get paid, but I also want to go to a contender with a competent quarterback that isn't named Mitch Trubisky. And so my numbers do go up, and I get some get recognized a little bit in the community as a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, generally speaking, though, when we see these big name receivers, they're usually going to teams that have rookie quarterbacks on rookie deals just because they got all the cap space. So some of the teams I think could be in play for the Allen Robinson types, we can just bucket Chris Godwin and Kenny Golladay probably into that same tier. Just these possible X receivers, the cream of the crop. And I think that would be the Colts could be in the market right now. Yeah, they drafted Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman, but I'm not sure you can rely on them to be true number one receivers, especially if you're looking to be a contender. And we've seen Carson Wentz have success with someone like Alshon Jeffrey. Allen Robinson and Kenny Galladay are very Alshon Jeffrey-esque receivers, so I could see the Colts going after one. The Jets I could definitely see going after a receiver. You know, you draft a young quarterback, or maybe we think they could trade for Deshaun Watson. You pair him up with a great receiver to go alongside of Denzel Mims. All of a sudden, the Jets' offense could be looking pretty nasty. The New England Patriots could be in the market. Now that the Patriots are going to have a ton of cap space this year, I can only imagine that one of these receivers is going to land their way in New England. And then I think some of the other teams that you could see are maybe the Washington football team gets in there. They have scary Terry McLaurin. Maybe they don't go for the big name, but I could see them maybe trying to land someone like a Will Fuller, maybe a Keelan Cole or Curtis Samuel. And then lastly, if one of these two teams can pull it off, I'm thinking maybe the Dolphins. Yeah, everyone's mocking them to draft a receiver, but if you draft someone like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, and then add another Will Fuller type to really take the top off of defense, all of a sudden that Miami offense is looking pretty good.
Yeah, it does. It goes from bleak to like in a very looking elite offense for Tua and him being comfortable. You know, I think the Jets with their cap space are definitely into like one of these big receivers. I was kind of like pitting them to get Juju or something like that. I could definitely just see Juju going to New York and seeing that whole vibe up there. But, you know, this receiver free agency class is very full of talent, and there's going to be some contracts thrown around.
Yeah, I think the last team we could see go after one is the Jaguars as well. They do have some good receivers on their roster already. It's just they have so much cap space. They have so many draft picks that you could just say, hey, screw drafting a receiver. Let's pick up Kenny Galladay to pair with Trevor Lawrence. We can draft all, offensive line, like mainly tackles with how good the tackle class is, and then completely revamp the defense in the draft with all their draft capital, and then actually be a team that can start being around the playoffs in a division that still has a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what we're going to see out of the Titans, especially after they lose Arthur Smith. The Colts now have a new quarterback. The Texans are just a dumpster fire and a half.
Yeah.
We could see this team they have, I think, $77.5 million in cap space, $9 million more than the Colts, and that Colts number is going to go down with this trade from Carson Wentz, $10 million more than the Jets. So they just have cash to spend.
They do. I think a good receiver to go for Trevor Lawrence would be someone like a T.Y. Hilton. Could be like, not your top tier guy, but, you still spend a lot of money, but could be a safety net kind of an older receiver to help mentor the younger receivers. I could see T.Y. taking a little pay in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where three guys in particular go from this receiver class. And that's Corey Davis, if he gets re-signed by the Titans or if a team wants to go for him. He's a guy with great draft capital. I think that he had a great season last year. I think he's also in that category of better football player than fantasy player. So he's an unbelievable blocker, just hard, physically built guy, hard-working kind of guy. Seems like a good locker room player. So he's a guy I'm really interested to see where he goes. Keelan Cole. I think that Keelan Cole had probably one of the more underrated seasons of receivers. And if he goes to a team that isn't the Jacksonville Jaguars with one win, maybe he's able to make an impact somewhere. And then lastly, A.J. Green. Maybe A.J. Green's able to go somewhere for relatively cheap. Maybe a team like the Chargers even. Maybe the Ravens, if he wants to say, hey, fuck you, Bengals, I'm going to the Ravens. We need an extra receiver. He goes there for cheap trying to chase a ring. if he's able to revitalize his career. Receivers, though, I'd have to give them an A this class. This is a great-looking receiver free agency class.
Yeah, easily.
Let's move on to the running backs. Running backs, we got some interesting guys. I think the big name everyone will agree with is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, he's been really good the past couple of seasons. He just does not seem to be getting the credit he deserves. You look at just all the numbers that he produced in that Green Bay offense, it does not look like he's going to be re-signed and he's going to be hitting the open market. And this is a guy that, who knows what's going to happen with his production. A lot of people see him being just as good, maybe even better than he was on Green Bay, or just completely plummeting with his production if he goes to a team like the Jets. He's going to be interesting. And after that, the free agent running backs is just kind of a crapshoot. Some of the bigger names, Kenyon Drake, Chris Carson, Phillip Lindsay, playoff Leonard Fournette, Le'Veon Bell, Gurley, James White, Tevin Coleman, Mike Davis, and James Conner.
Yeah, you really, besides like Aaron Jones and Chris Carson, you're really just picking at the crop there. I mean, there's not really that many running backs that maybe can make an impact. Going back to Aaron Jones, though, like, I think in our mock we have Aaron Jones, Travis Etienne going to the Fins in the second round. What if?
No, we haven't taken Najee. We have Etienne
Najee?
going to the Cardinals.
Okay, that's right. What if Miami played with it and just paid Aaron Jones and just put in another weapon, and then they have a little Aaron Jones and Michael Gaskin little duo? I think that would be pretty nice. Because it is kind of interesting, because Aaron Jones is going to want his money, which he respectfully should get. And I just think it could be at the point where, you know, he's not going to put up the same production in Green Bay, but can he live up to his contract? That's the thing. And, you know, I'm not big on paying running backs, but someone's going to have to do it. And I just see if he goes to the Jets, like, he'd be wasting. But if he went to a team like Miami, I would really like that for him. Chris Carson, I think, is just going to re-sign with the Seahawks. I just have that feeling.
Yeah, the thing that's weird about, I think, the running back market especially, is that since the cap is not increasing, it looks like, there are a lot of teams that don't believe in paying running backs to begin with. There doesn't seem to be a ton of teams that have the cap space to really warrant these giant running back deals. Just looking at the top of the list, the Jaguars do have James Robinson, who they can roll with, and if I'm that staff, I'm like, well, do we really want to give Aaron Jones $12-13 million a year when we just have a guy that produced really well? We can just pick up maybe a Mike Davis to put behind him, and then roll with and pick up a wide receiver. The Colts just drafted Jonathan Taylor. I doubt they take a running back with Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines on the roster. Yeah, the Jets could. The Jets could pay a running back. So I'll give you that. The Patriots, I feel like, are a team that are one of those teams that does not want to pay running backs. They have never paid a running back, and I think they firmly believe in going by a committee. Washington football team has Antonio Gibson, who looked really good. The Bengals have Joe Mixon, who they paid. I'm going down the list of the teams with the most cap space. So now we get to the Broncos, maybe, the Dolphins, maybe, but they only have 30 and 25 million in cap space with other massive holes on their roster. Maybe Jones has to take some sort of a prove-it deal and try to get paid next year. I don't really know, aside from the Jets, where is his market coming from?
That's a good point. It's tough. He picked like the worst time to be a free agent, but I don't know. It's just like we go into the theme is now is to draft a running back, and then once he's up for free agency, just dump him. You know, because the shelf life is just you really don't know. It's just short for a running back unless you get like a Zeke, a CMC, Saquon, someone like that. But you know, I think you're right. Aaron Jones is going to have to take that little prove-it deal, 1 year prove-it deal, and just if he lights it up and can prove that he can benefit somewhere other than Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers, then maybe, he can fall into a place next year when the cap goes up.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of these teams, you almost just have to do a cost-benefit analysis. Would you rather have one of these top running backs in the draft, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, and pay the draft capital for it, whether it's a second round or a first round pick? Or would you rather give up that $12, $13 million contract and pick up someone like Aaron Jones?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a tough decision. I think I'd rather draft the back. Especially if I could pick up one in the second round, I think I'd rather draft the back.
I think most teams would rather just draft the rookie,
And you could even look in maybe into the third round and pick up a Kenneth Gainwell, a Trey Sermon. There's a whole list of running backs. Kylan Hill, Michael Carter, all these guys that, I can save $13 million. Or maybe even just go for a Phillip Lindsay. What does Phillip Lindsay get? Half that? What is he going? What does he get? 7-6 a year, if that? I don't know. That. It's just the whole thing for me. It's a weird running back market. I'd give the class probably a C+ overall, which is mainly being carried by Aaron Jones. Aside from that, all these guys just have major question marks. Tight ends, not a good tight end class in my opinion. It's trash. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Gerald Everett, Gronk. Which I think Gronk at this point is just like, dude, I'm only playing with Brady.
Yeah.
Jared Cook and Mo Alley Cox. Not if you need a tight end, you're looking in the draft. It looks like.
It'd be interesting with Hunter Henry though, because I see people projecting a 4-year, $40-something million a year. Dude, I don't think Hunter Henry deserves that contract. I don't know.
I don't either.
He hasn't been on the field for his whole career. I just, decent talent. I get it. Maybe he's, talent-wise, better than Hooper, but at least Hooper's on the field, But who's going to pay him that? You're right. It's just a terrible tight end class.
Yeah, I agree. I would much rather spend draft capital. I think this is a kind of an underrated tight end class, aside from Kyle Pitts. Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, Charlie Kolar. There's a couple of other tight ends I like. And then at that point, would you rather just pick up a Gerald Everett or a Mo Alley Cox instead of pay that $10 million per year plus for Hunter Henry? So tight ends, I'd probably give a D+ at best, maybe even a D. This is not a great free agency to pick up tight ends. I think last year was a whole lot better. O-line. O-line, there's some pretty damn good O-linemen right now that look like they're going to be free agents. Once again, this is before teams have really re-signed, so the whole landscape of stuff can change. But going through some of the better O-linemen, Brandon Sheriff, one of the top guards in the league, Joe Tooney, Trent Williams, Corey Linsley, Alex Mack, Russell Okung, Cameron Fleming, Alejandro Villanueva, Lane Taylor, Cameron Irving, Taylor Morton, David Andrews, Austin Rader, among others. Looks like a pretty good offensive line class for one of these teams that has cash. I think it's going to be interesting to see, because we got a couple of Patriots in here. I think the Patriots do look to re-sign at least one of those guys.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised at all if the Washington football team tries heavily to re-sign Brandon Sheriff, one of the better guards in football. But Trent Williams, we don't know if he's going to stay with the 49ers. Corey Linsley looks like he's going to be released by the Packers, one of the top center guards in the league. I think this is looking to shape up. You can probably get a decent quality, good quality starting offensive lineman in this free agency.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good big names out there and money to be made. Just a question of where they go and where they land. But if you're a team with who doesn't have much O-line depth and needs a good guard or center, I mean, the names are there and you can easily take them here and just pay them what they want.
Yeah, if you're a team that needs offensive linemen, this year seems to be your year, because You have about 1,000 tackles in the draft class that all looked really good. You've got a pretty good free agency class. There just seems to be... Now, this is going to heavily change depending on who gets re-signed, because I think the O-line class is being kind of carried by a handful of top guys. If those guys do get re-signed, it could really ruin the quality of this class. But if you're a team that needs some O-line and you have cap space, you seem to be pretty chilling, or cap space and draft capital. Now, lastly, let's go over some of the top defensive players, because there are some big names right now that may be setting to hit the market. This includes players like Von Miller, Leonard Williams, who has completely turned around his career on the Giants, Matthew Judon, Bud Dupree, Shaq Barrett, Clowney, Justin Simmons, J.J. Watt, Ngagwe, Patrick Peterson. The list goes on and on. I can keep going. K.J. Wright, Keanu Neal, Malik Hooker, Hassan Reddick. There is a ton of defensive talent that seems to be hitting the market right now. Let's start off with J.J. Watt. Steed, who do you think is going to win the J.J. Watt sweepstakes right now?
Listen, I said it yesterday to you, but I like the Browns, man. I can see if the Browns really want to get in this and they can get J.J. Watt and put him on the side of Myles Garrett, the defense is looking nasty. And I wonder what J.J. Watt's going to... I'm thinking he would only get like a 2-year deal, somewhere around there. But I think he would be a good fit there. I understand the whole thing of him going to Green Bay because he's from Wisconsin, he played at Wisconsin, or the Steelers, he's a Watt brother and all that, or him going to Dallas because he likes Texas. But, I kind of like a dark horse in here. I think he's already talked a little bit to the Browns, if I read that article right the other day. But I like him going to the Browns.
Yeah, I saw that the Browns are rumored to be in there. The Bills, supposedly there's mutual interest there. So, I have no idea where J.J. Watt's going to go. I actually tend to agree with you. I don't think he's going to end up going to the Steelers or the Packers just because they're not really in the cap scenario to warrant a J.J. Watt. Man, but aside from J.J. Watt, there are some damn good defensive players. Now, once again, going to change with the re-signs because someone like Justin Simmons, I think the Broncos should re-sign him. If you let him hit the market, that's just absurd.
They'll keep him.
But you got players like Matthew Judon and Bud Dupree. While these are not necessarily the best pass rushers in the league, these are guys that have the potential to be, and kind of almost have been, number one quality pass rushers for teams. You're looking at it, if you're the Colts, or you're the Jets, dude, I'm shelling out some cash to get one of these pass rushers, it's looking like.
Oh, easily. I'd shell a lot of money to get Matthew Judon, man.
There's Ngagwe, there's J.J.
Ngagwe's
Watt,
gonna get a big...
Dupree, so many players. And on top of that, you got a lot of good quality secondary players as well. William Jackson, Marcus Williams, Desmond King, Richard Sherman, Marcus May, a couple of the Steelers corners, Troy Hill, Chidobe Awuzie. Some pretty damn good players that you can pick up for your defense in this free agency.
Yeah, if I'm a team like you were talking about earlier with the Bills having interest in J.J. Watt, I'm licking my lips at this defensive class. You struggled at getting to the quarterback all year last year. And if I'm the Bills and you're right there on that, where you can make that Super Bowl run if you just got a couple more pieces, Ngagwe would be a really good pickup for you. Judon or someone to stack this D-line and just get after it next season.
Yeah, I agree. If the Bills are able to work their cap into fixing a lot of their pass rush issues in free agency, and then you're able to use that pick 30 to pick up a second corner and really put that secondary top of the league type of level, and then use your later picks to keep filling in on your D line and then back on your offense, maybe with a tight end. I think you're right. You're just a handful of pieces away on your defense from really being one of those Super Bowl contenders. Like, I would really love to see the Bills get their defense at least to the level that the Chiefs had, where it wasn't necessarily elite, and the Chiefs still had problems getting to the pass, like getting to the quarterback, but their defense was still around top half of the league. And the Bills this year, they turned it on late, but beginning of the season, it was just kind of bad. I think they have some really talented pieces. They just need a couple more players, mainly on that defensive line, to really put them into that. Like, they could be even better than the Chiefs if they're able to get that defensive line to stop the run and get to the quarterback. And you got some great players here to do it. Defense, as of right now, I'd probably give it like a B+. Maybe even an A, just because of how many quality edge rushers there are right now. Basically every position, there's at least one or two good players that you can pick up for your defense. So that's kind of like the whole free agency preview. When we get more information on, where the rumors are and who's going to sign where, we'll get more into that and into the whole free agency discussion. There's really no point in needlessly talking about it, though. We need to see who gets re-signed and who actually is hitting the market first. But with that being said, we have an interesting segment lined up for you guys. So me and Steed, we came up with something. We decided that we're going to do a little interesting series before the draft. We'll do a couple of teams. So if you want your team, comment down below and we'll do your team. But since this is basically a Raiders podcast, we're going to start off with the Raiders. We're going to be doing a mock off-season for the Raiders. We wanted to do a mock draft of just a specific team going the entire length of the draft. But we decided, hey, screw it, let's just do the entire off-season. So let me just change the topic real quick. So, Steed, you want to real quick kind of get into what the overall needs for this Raiders team are?
Well, yeah. So, when we were looking at the Raiders team earlier, we got to get, we want to fill holes on the defensive line and in the secondary, especially at corner. We all know that defense was a huge problem for the Raiders last year and really held them back to being a wild card team last year. And we want to see the Raiders get in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl so we can get in the Hooters. So first thing we did is we got to create cap space. So we cut players like Marcus Mariota. Who else we cut?
Yeah, I'll get into that real quick. I'm just trying to see if we can. I'm trying to get it on the screen real quick. But yeah, we started off coming in about $18.5 million over the cap. And Steed's right. We got into the first phase, and that is cutting players. Let me see. Can I share this? Yeah, here we go. This is going to ruin the view real quick. Bang time. There we go. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, as you can see on the screen, there were a couple, pretty standard cuts. That includes Tyrell Williams and his $11.6 million cap hit. We saved $10.6 million by cutting him. That's just a no-brainer right there. We also cut LaMarcus Joyner. Safety is a desperate need. We ended up saving $8.7 million from cutting him. Like Steed said, we cut Marcus Mariota, which I think you just have to do. Marcus Mariota is one of the highest paid backups in the league, I believe. And the Raiders, with their cap situation, without the cap increasing, do not have that luxury of having one of the highest paid backup quarterbacks. We cut him, save a nice $11.35 million. We also cut guard Gabe Jackson. So this was an interesting discussion that we had. We kind of came in here and we kind of thought that the offensive line was already solved from an outsider's perspective. We were fans of the Raiders. We had the Super Bowl bet, but we had never really looked heavily into their cap situation. But what we had noticed is that while the offensive line does have a lot of talent, this is an old group with a lot of annoying contracts on the books. Just a whole lot of money tied up to a bunch of older offensive linemen. So we kind of came down to it. we felt like we had to cut one of Gabe Jackson or Richie Incognito. And we ended up deciding to cut Gabe Jackson. And at first I wanted to cut Richie Incognito because of his health issues and all that. But, well, it is more risky. Richie Incognito, when he plays, is an elite level guard. This is a guy that he may be old, he may be injury prone, but man, when he's on the field, he is an absolute mauler. He is a beast. And Gabe Jackson, while he may be a little more consistent, he's got a higher cap number. We can save $9.6 million, and he's just not as good when on the field. So we decided to take a little bit of a risk. We cut Gabe Jackson. We saved $9.6 million. And then lastly, we decided to cut Jalen Richard. While we did need to add running back depth in the draft to begin with, Jalen Richard, we're just not paying you $3.5 million. We just thought that is a bad contract. We would rather pick up a running back in the back end of the draft and add maybe one or two and with back end free agency pickup or UDFA. So we decided to cut him. So overall, adding all of that cap savings. Okay, well, I didn't get into the restructures. So real quick, I'll go over the restructures. We restructured Rodney Hudson, transitioned $4.5 million of his contract into signing bonus, saving about $2.25. Trent Brown, $5 million into signing bonus, saved $2.5 million. Derek Carr, restructured him and saved about $3 million. Real quick on Derek Carr, ideally we would like to extend Derek Carr to lower the cap hit this year, have it really take into effect 2 years down the line when we have Trent Brown's big contract off the books. So basically we would transition Trent Brown's contract into paying our quarterback, but we didn't want to get that crazy, so we just decided, hey, we're just going to restructure Derek Carr's contract. He's going to be our quarterback. We're not going to trade for Deshaun Watson. So when it's all said and done, all of those moves, we have $27.875 million in cap room.
Yeah.
Wish we could have had more, but when you're $18.5 million down in cap, there's really just not a ton you can do. Maybe we should have cut Trent Brown. I'm not giving up on Trent Brown. I know he did not have the greatest season last year, but I think he's just too talented to let go to another team and then have succeed. So I'll give him another shot. That transitioning some money into signing bonus, because the cap did not increase this year and will increase more next year, I almost felt like having that $2.5 million dead cap for cutting him next year was negligible for how much the cap will increase. We get to save $2.5 million this year, which I felt was more important. So now let's get into the free agency moves we made. So we have about $28 million in cap. That is also including, that $28 million is including $7.2 million for draft picks and undrafted free agents, by the way. Because you have to have that reserved for those players. So we had $28 million to play with. Steed, would you like to get into the first deal that we did in free agency?
Yeah, the first deal we did, reiterating what we said at the beginning of this segment, is we want to get that corner. We want to get that solidified. We know he's a dog. He has his repertoire and history. So we went out there and got the cream of the crop, Richard Sherman. We got Sherman on a 2-year deal, was it? And $28 million.
Yeah, we ended up signing Sherman for 2 years, $28 million deal, $14 million guaranteed.
Yeah, so right there, you get your number one corner for a young secondary, but instantly makes your secondary and your defense as a whole better. Gives you really that rock, a trusted corner on your defense. And
even though we used half of our cap space on one player, but we felt that it was important enough to get that number one lockdown corner because, like Steed said, our corners were just too young. it was such a problem last year, our secondary. We needed to get a guy that we knew, hey, we got to play guys like the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos, teams that have been heavily investing in their offenses. We need a guy that we think can cover their number one receivers. We need a guy that we can really trust one-on-one coverage, and we haven't gotten that out of the young players that we drafted, guys like David Arnett and Travion Mullen. These are guys that have just been getting bullied. We needed a dog that could just solidify that number one spot and take some of the pressure off of these young players. Second player we signed, defensive tackle Shelby Harris. We signed him to a 3-year, $33.375 million per year. Not overall, $11.125 million per year. We backloaded the contract a little bit, so it was a $9.75 million cap hit this season. So, Steed, would you like to take it from there?
Yeah, and going back to the Raiders' D-line hasn't been that great, and one of their biggest needs is a D-tackle, just a guy to plug up the middle and help stop the run game. And we feel like Shelby Harris is one of the better D-tackles on the market. Easily could afford him with the adjustments in the cap. And, we're the Raiders where we think our offense is ready to go. Fourth year under Gruden now? Third? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, 3 or 4, one of the two.
Doesn't matter. It's time to start winning games, and it's time to start investing into this defense, help out the offense, go hand to hand. And Shelby Harris is a guy you can instantly plug in and just be day one impact on the Raiders defense.
Yeah, so Shelby Harris basically concluded the majority of our free agency. We decided, hey, we needed too many big, impactful players on our defensive side of the football to pick up all in the draft. While we can still use a D-tackle, Shelby Harris, for the type of contract that he's going to be going for in free agency, we used a combination of Pro Football Focus's free agency preview plus spot track, the valuation on the players to come up with what we thought were fair deals, slightly over market deals because you're going to have to pay for guys with the competition. So after signing those two players, we had just shy of $4 million left to play with. We decided, hey, we're going to get Mike Glennon. Bring
him back, put him with the Gruden.
Yeah, we needed a backup quarterback, so we signed him to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. We basically did that so we didn't have to use one of our later round picks on a backup quarterback. He's a guy that knows the system. We'll probably end up getting a quarterback as a UDFA who's just going to kind of sit around the bottom of the roster. But we get a guy who looked all right for the Jaguars. We needed a backup quarterback. We'll sign Glenn on. And then lastly, we picked up Cam Robinson. We signed him to a 1-year, $1.8 million deal. This is a guy that was a high-round pick that is largely considered a bust. We almost kind of got him as insurance for if one of our tackles went down. Just a guy that we think, yeah, he hasn't had the career that everyone's been hoping for, but maybe with our coaching staff and our quality of offensive line, he can kind of pick it up and get it together, and that would be a great little 1-year value deal and just add some depth to the offensive line. But that's going to do it for our free agency. We ended up having about, in total, $7.125 million left with the money that we set aside for free agency plus the 1.5 that we had left over. So that'll go to our draft class and undrafted free agents. So with that being said, we are doing this on the fly. I have never looked at this before. It is the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator. We're going to get into a mock draft on here right now. We're doing it live. We have no idea what to expect. We do have some sort of a plan on what we're going to pick up, but we have no idea how PFF values the players. So it's either going to be really good or really bad for us, I feel like. So, Steve, you wanna kind of get into some of the guys that you want to target in this draft?
Yeah, so first round, we're hoping to get one of these elite pass rushers fall to us at 17. maybe a guy like Jalen Phillips. We might even plug up the line or the interior line with maybe a Christian Barmore. But we still need a guard and a safety, and we're going to try to target that in the second or third round. Maybe pick up a receiver late, and got to see how the draft falls to us. I mean, it is a simulator; picks are going to be flying, but I feel like if we get one of these cream of the crops D-end in the first round, we are going to be kind of bullying on the D-line. We're trying to make this defense, reshape it through the free agency and the draft, and make this like a legit contender next year.
Okay, here we go. We're about to start the draft. Here we are. We have selections 17, 48, 80, 121, 163, and 246. Kind of like Steed said, the main targets for us is that we need an edge rusher. We didn't sign an edge rusher in free agency. We need a guy that can rush the passer aside from Max Crosby. Other than that, we need a guard. We cut Gabe Jackson. We need a guy that can step up and be someone that can play on our offensive line. And then lastly, we need a safety. We need a safety who can start. We still have Heath and
Abram.
Yeah, and Jonathan Abram, who are decent safeties, but we need help in that secondary, especially against the pass. So we're hoping to pick up some good players. We're going to try and add a running back and a receiver later in the draft, like he said. But let's get into it. Let's see what happens. Okay. What the?
Well, the
Trevor Lawrence went
Lawrence
to 4th. This is ridiculous. Dude, it's draft season. Anything can happen. So Paye went. Who do we have available? So Jason Rousseau is there. Jason Owe is there. And Christian Barmore is there. For me, it's between one of these edge rushers, right? I think we just have to go Rousseau.
Yeah, we'll go Rousseau.
That's
just a steal at 17.
Yeah, I feel like that's a steal. You usually don't get someone of that quality there at 17. Let's see what's going on here. So we got our edge rusher. We can knock that one off of our needs. I can't believe Trevor Lawrence went at 4. What is this simulator?
I feel like every simulator should just be locked on, or they have to take Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, we're on the board here again. Let's see who went before us real quick. Tay Gowan, Tyson Campbell, Wyatt Davis went. That's annoying. I was really hoping that we were going to be able to snag Wyatt Davis in the second round. A couple of tackles kind of falling. Holy crap, a whole list of offensive linemen going. Damn, Ardaris Washington. He was the other second-round selection I wanted to have. He goes at the end of the first. This is getting interesting here, Mr. Steed. So here, I'm feeling we need, once again, we're going defense. Let's see who's on the board. Let's see what safeties we can get. Richie Grant, Andre Sisco, Paris Ford. These are guys that are pretty good. Not sure I want to take him with a second-round selection, though. Interior offensive line. There is Creed Humphrey, who we can move to guard. There's Ben Cleveland, who I think is a guy that the NFL is going to value a lot more than this mock draft simulator is at 90. Deontay Brown is there. Oh, Trey Smith. I love Trey Smith. I may want to take him here. Steed, who are you feeling here?
Dude, we could go Trey Smith. I like that pick.
Let's see who else is just top of the board. Javon Holland. I'm pretty sure he's a safety, not a corner.
I thought he was a safety.
We could go Holland. This is a guy that I think come draft day is going to start sneaking up on people's boards. He opted out this season, but was really good for Oregon in 2019. I am really tempted to go Javon Holland there. Also, Joseph Osai is here. Damn. Just double up on edge rusher.
Yeah, just have a rotation. I say we send Javon Holland. Just get.
Yeah, I think I'm going Javon Holland. Pick up our safety. We have completely revamped our defense here. So, you Raiders fans, I'm not sure if you like how we revamped the defense. I'm hoping you did. Picked up Shelby Harris, Richard Sherman, Javon Holland, and Gregory Rousseau. Hopefully that group is not one of like the historically worst defenses in like the past 10 or 15 years. Let's see what we can get here at interior offensive line. So, okay, all the guys that we were targeting with our last pick are still here. It's almost our run-of-the-mill, whether we want Deontay Brown, Trey Smith, or Ben Cleveland.
I do like Ben Cleveland a lot.
I like all these guys a lot. I think that these are all guys that I'm not sure would really last to here in an actual draft.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, I guess we might as well just look at the entire board while we're looking, right?
Do we just go Najee here?
Rashad Weaver. Interesting. I think we have to go with a guard here. It's too greedy to not pick up a guard. The board has fallen perfectly for us, Mr. Steed.
Yeah.
Who are you feeling here? Because I'm picking one of these two guys, Deontay Brown or Smith. I've been hearing rumblings about Ben Cleveland, though, that he's going to be a guy that's rising up draft boards. Should we just take Ben Cleveland? You're more of the UGA watcher than I am, so do you think he's worth?
I've ridden a bus with Ben Cleveland. It was back in high school when he was a recruit, and he was just so big. He was just towered over me. But then again, dude, you could never go wrong with the Bama. You know, just a little Bama, Deontay Brown, just get solidified guy. But then
I think Trey Smith is a guy that could have first round potential. Trey Smith, a guard out of Tennessee. We're choosing between Trey Smith, Deontay Brown, a guard from Alabama, and Ben Cleveland, a guard from Georgia. Board has fallen perfectly for us here. Steed, I'll let you make this one. If you want to agree with me, I would take Trey Smith.
Yeah, let's just take Trey Smith. I like that.
All right. We're going Trey Smith. A little against consensus there. So this draft has actually gone really well for us.
The football team picked up Najee Harris.
Dude, this draft is wild. Dang, LeCount went. I was looking to try and pick him up.
If I was able to get T-Law at 4, I'd go ecstatic.
So now we kind of can just go best player available. Quincy Roche here is another great pass rusher. We could just add to the take two Miami pass rushers. Who else is here? Tutu Atwell is interesting. We could still take Deontay Brown and just double up. That is one thing. We could take a tackle just to get a little bit younger if there's any good tackles, or just take another guard. Keep getting younger up front. Because like we said earlier, this is just an old group offensive lineman. There's Marlon Tupuoletu. This is a guy that I have like a second-round grade on. We could continue to bolster the D-line. Let's just look through it. So let's look at the receivers. Nico Collins is a guy that I right now think might go in the second, not the fourth. Let's look at the running backs. Chuba Hubbard and Trey Sermon on the board. Kylan Hill, Ramondre Stevenson. I think I'm going to wait on a running back, though, just because we have Josh Jacobs. He will be suspended the first couple of games, but I think that we can pick up a running back that's just as good next round, if not one of those guys. The tackles, Brady Christensen is all right. I'm not really a huge fan of these guys on the board here at pick 121 for us, though, at tackle.
Yeah. Dude, I'd say we just go another edge rusher.
Yeah, I think for me it's almost do we want Marlon Tupuoletu, a defensive tackle from USC, or do we want to take Quincy Roche, a guy that I think could easily... Oh, Patrick Jones is great too. This is a guy I watched at the Senior Bowl. I thought that he and Quincy Roche looked both really good. I don't think that both of these guys are going to be on the board in round 4 in an actual draft. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that we just need to go edge rusher. just go best player available. I think these two guys are really fantastic players to pick up.
Yeah, dude, I say go Quincy Roche. Just take 2 Miami pass rushers. I mean,
Yeah, let's just get
Miami's
both
just
of them.
loaded with pass rushers this year.
All right, so we have 2 picks remaining. We doubled up on edge rusher. Patrick Jones goes. So, yeah, we're going to need to probably pick up a running back and a receiver here with these last 2 picks. We wanted to re-sign Nelson Aguilar in the offseason. It's just his valuation was a little bit too high. According to Spot Track, we needed to pay him about $10 million per. That's what the market rate was going on him. We just didn't. We felt like we had too many holes on the defense to really to pay him that much. I was not comfortable. I think. Let's see. Daz Newsome and Shi Smith, Tamarion Terry.
Yeah.
These are some great receivers on the board. Let's just look at the running backs too. Kylan Hill and Ramondre on the board as well.
Oh, Ramondre Stevenson.
So here's the one thing I have against someone like Shi Smith or someone like a Dwayne Eskridge is that we just drafted our burner last season, right? We drafted our burner in that kid from Bama. What's his name? I'm blanking on his name.
Ruggs.
Yeah, Henry Ruggs. So I kind of want to get more of a true X. I think that could be Tamarion Terry out of Florida State. This is a guy that had a really wacky year this year, but I really liked what I saw out of him last year. Daz Newsome, kind of a playmaker. I like Tamarion Terry here. Any good guys later in the draft? Marquez Stevenson, he's another burner. I do like Grimes and Darby from what I saw out of them. But I think, Josh Immature, baby.
Oh,
Your
dude.
guy.
Yeah, just athletic freak.
I think I like Tamarion Terry. Unless you want to take one of these other receivers, we can just go all speed and take Shi Smith out of South Carolina.
We could. That's tempting just to get a home guy. But you're right.
Yeah,
we need the big guy to come down with the catch, you know?
Yeah, I want to replace what Nelson Aguilar brought to our offense. Kind of that, if he's one-on-one, he can go deep and win that 50-50 ball. I think the best guy for that would be Tamarion Terry out of Florida State. So I'm going to go there and pick him. We pick up our receiver that we needed. This last pick, we're probably going to force a running back. I'm hoping that there's going to be a decent running back on the board. I have scouted a lot of running backs at this point in the process, so I'm hoping that we can get someone good. CJ Verdell just got picked. I'm pretty sure he's not in the draft this year. The Falcons picked him up here at pick 183. I'm pretty sure he is still in.
I saw Richard
back to
LeCount
Oregon.
too, and I'm pretty sure Richard LeCount is going back to Georgia.
Oh, is he?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, PFF has got to get their shit together. Here we go. Damn, DeMonte Coxey all the way down here. He was a guy that was getting a lot of hype. So here we go. Let's see what running backs we got. Not a ton left. There's Jermar Jefferson. I know a lot of people like him. I'm not super high on him. There's Chris Evans, who I got to see a little bit at the Senior Bowl. Wasn't incredibly crazy on him. Rakeem Boyd, I've heard of him. I haven't watched him yet. You gotta pick here. I think I just go Jermar Jefferson for the upside.
Yeah, just give me Jamar.
And then that is going to conclude our draft. So I guess we can go over the full rebuild of the Las Vegas Raiders now. So all in all, just to recap,
They gave us a
cut
B+.
Tyrell Williams. Yeah, it's bullshit. I gave us an A+. I thought we
They gave us a
nailed this
B
draft.
for Gregory Rousseau at 17.
They must not like him. I thought that was a great pick. I'm not sure he's going to be on the board there. I felt like Javon Holland. That should be an A. I think that's a good pick. But yeah, here's our draft. So all in all, we cut Tyrell Williams, LaMarcus Joyner, Marcus Mariota, Gabe Jackson, and Jalen Richard. We restructured a couple of contracts. We add Richard Sherman, Shelby Harris, Mike Glennon in free agency alongside of Cam Robinson. And then here's our draft class. We pick up Gregory Rousseau, edge rusher out of Miami. Then we pick up safety Javon Holland out of Oregon. Pick up our starting guard Trey Smith, a great run blocking, mauling type of guard. Then we pick up Quincy Roche as another pass rusher, giving us some depth at pass rusher in the 4th. Pick up Tamarion Terry, possible receiver, X kind of receiver in the 5th round. Kind of an interesting prospect, just a guy that had a really wacky year this year, but looked pretty good in 2019. But for a guy that we picked up at 163, I like the value and potential there. And then same thing with Jermar Jefferson at 246. I'm not a huge Jermar Jefferson guy, but someone that we're able to pick up at the back end of the 7th round, I really like that as someone who's going to need to probably play for us at the beginning of the season with our running back getting suspended, Josh Jacobs, with a DUI for a couple of games.
Yeah.
But here we are. That's going to do it for the episode. Steed, you have any final thoughts on how we rebuilt the Raiders?
I mean, easily Raiders are winning 10 or more games next year.
I'm liking this defense here. I'm starting to really like this defense. The one thing I kind of wish we were able to do is pick up a legit linebacker. I was not a fan of the linebackers of the Raiders last year. There's a couple of just really bad contracts that were tough to deal with in this offseason. I'm excited to see what the Raiders do in the actual offseason. I think that we're going to throw another little Hooters bet on them.
Definitely going to have to.
Yeah, let's go Raiders. But that's going to do it for the episode. If you guys like the episode, like the content, hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Let's go Raiders, and peace out.